What's up everybody, PJ back again, here with something a little different. I've got 18 albums that I just couldn't get to for a full review that I'd like to give a little bit of my thoughts on, and I hope you guys like this. First up is Cloudscape with their new album, The Voice of Reason. These guys are a Swedish progressive power metal band, and this album didn't really wow me. A lot of progressive power metal tends to underwhelm me these days, but there is some good stuff if you're a fan of the style. There are some cool longer tracks where the band tries some experimental things that you guys might like. Full of Hell, Amber Mote in the Black Vault. This was an absolutely crushing EP. It's very short, 4 or 5 minutes long if I'm not mistaken. It's 4 tracks and one of them's a cover of a Melvin song. It really showcases their more grindcore side, and I really like the direction this band has been moving in, especially with their last album, the collaboration with Murwgebeukt, and they've just been incorporating more and more extreme metal into their sound, and it really came off very well. Aborted's new EP, Termination Redux, is another slab of death grind from these masters of the style. Really nothing too new, but it's another really solid slab of material. I honestly thought that Brutus would not put this out. This album's been rumored to have been coming out for about 7 or 8 years now, and every year the release date kept being moved back farther and farther, but it's out now. It's a very long, brutal death metal album, and it kind of wears out its welcome in my opinion. I can't really listen to this style of death metal for as long as this record was. David Bowie passed away this January, but before he did, he left us with the album Blackstar, which does incorporate a lot of experimental elements that I really liked. I came into this album not really sure what to expect, ended up liking it quite a bit more than I thought I would. It's definitely something to check out if you're into progressive rock with some avant-garde type touches. Finland's Ancestors' Blood have returned with their 3rd album, Hyperborea, and this is a big slab of ambient black metal. If you're a fan of that style, you'll probably like this. There's some pretty cool guitar solos and ambiences throughout the record that fans of the style probably will enjoy. Obscure of Acacia is a Russian deathcore band. They have ties to Sentenced to Dissection, if you're familiar with that group. That was sort of a technical deathcore project, and I know them because of that tie. I've never been super into this band. Their EP I thought was just kind of okay, but this album has some cool moments. It's very hardcore influenced, but it does take a venture into technicality at certain points. This is an album I really wanted to review, but I just couldn't find the time. Lycus have returned with an absolutely crushing and desolate funeral doom album that just brings just despair and sorrow with it. They didn't further experiment with drone like they did on their first album. However, I did really like this album nevertheless. Coral Throne is the latest output by Mandroid Echostar, and these guys play a style of sort of progressive metalcore, I'd say, with a bit of a post-hardcore tinge to it. Imagine Claudio from Coheed and Cambria fronting Protest the Hero, with a bit of Coheed's musical styles incorporated as well, and a bit of like art by numbers. And that's basically what Mandroid Echostar sounds like. They have some really catchy material on this album, and it's definitely worth checking out if you're into any of those bands I mentioned. The new album from Witchcraft, entitled Nucleus, really captures the essence of traditional doom metal as well as heavy psychedelic rock, and also incorporates elements of progressive rock, which kind of reminded me of Jethro Tull. There are some long songs on this album, and this is a very long effort, and it has a lot of variation, and it comes off really well. I very much enjoyed this. If you're looking for something retro, definitely check this out. The new Megadeth, Dystopia, is probably my biggest disappointment so far this year. I did like the singles leading up to this, and the title track is probably one of my favorite songs off the record, but Dave's vocals on this album just sounded kind of weak and not up to par with even the like 2000 stuff like 13 and Endgame, and the lyrics just kind of made me cringe and laugh, and it just wasn't a good combination, and I just didn't really care for this album. It really didn't keep me coming back at all. Ulver has returned with a very long ambient experimental piece. There's some really cool moments on this. It's a very intriguing album, and there's also some really cool vocals. I really like towards the end of the album where the vocals make a more prominent appearance. This is definitely an album to check out if you're into ambient. I honestly did not know what to expect from Ghostlights by Avantasia. The first song they released from it, Mystery of the Blood Red Rose, sounded like a Meatloaf B-side from one of the Bad Out of Hell albums, and I do know that that was kind of the intent of the song. It was originally written with him in mind. But anyways, the second single, Ghostlights, was more of a power metal song, so I really didn't know what this album might sound like. In the end, we do get a pretty solid Avantasia album. Nothing stands out too much about this album. There are some good songs. We have some good features as well. I really like Draconian Love. The feature from Within Temptation's singer was very well done as well. My favorite track off this album has to be Lucifer, though. Very great piano ballad in the first part and awesome guitar solo later in the song. If you listen to any tracks off this album, definitely check out Lucifer. Man, Black Tusk delivered one kick-ass sludge metal album that just has a very punk undertone to it and just hits you in the face over and over again. So check out Pillars of Ash if you want to just get into some really awesome punky sludge metal. Legendary German thrash band Exumer is back with The Raging Tides, and this is an absolutely no bullshit thrash album. It just grabs you by the neck and just keeps shaking you throughout the album. It's a really awesome thrash metal album. Check it out if you're into that style. Finnish psychedelic folk band Hexvessel have returned with When We Are Death, and this is a very good album. Really captures the retro psychedelic feel of like late 60s and early 70s psychedelia. There's some really good tracks on here. I really enjoyed it. Very catchy stuff. It gave me a very like chill and relaxed vibe while listening to it. So if you're looking for something a bit more laid back, definitely go check out the new Hexvessel. Germany's Ketzer have decided to ditch the black and thrash in favor of a more punk sounding black metal record. And it even sort of reminded me of Blink-182 with the song Godface. Like the intro to that song, go listen to the intro to Godface by Ketzer, and then listen to the intro to All the Small Things by Blink-182. Overall, the first time I heard this album, I kind of liked it, but as I listened to it more, I actually liked it less. And that's not a good sign for an album. I really hope Ketzer decides to go back to their old style, because that's actually really good and worth checking out. Serenity's Codex Atlanticus is like candy. It's very easy on you, very easy on the ears, very sweet, but after a while you just get sick of it. And that's kind of my experience with this album. It's a very fun album the first time, but as you listen to it more and more, it kind of wears on you and you kind of start to like it less. Alright, that's it for this edition of Review Roundup. I'll be doing another one of these at the end of every month, and I know that this was not a comprehensive list of albums that came out in January. There were definitely some that I couldn't get to, just didn't have the time to listen to them, or just didn't know they came out. So if there are any January releases that really stuck out to you guys, let me know in the comments. And if you have any thoughts on any of the albums I mentioned in this video, I know there were a lot of them, just let me know what you thought down in the comments. And until next time, keep it metal.